I'm just waiting for more people to join us, but welcome to the class session. Today we were to study or discuss actually the chapter number 3, In Hunger of Memory by Richard Rodriguez. So that's what I intend to do. In addition, I would like us to have a short conversation on the video by Dr. Petoskey about bilingual education. And I want to start the class by talking about the assignments, but we are only 3 so far. So why don't we, I'm going to show you, if you could help me with the pages for your edition. That way we'll make progress and we'll help everybody, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen again. And here I have my edition and its pages. Please, if you have the black cover edition, give me your pages, okay? So first page is 85. What edition are you using? I'm not getting any answer from you both. Kaylee or Lindsay?
I'm trying to look. Is it the beginning of a paragraph?
That's the beginning, yes. In contrast to the Catholicism of school.
My book is the dark brown one, the paperback.
This is mine. This is mine. So you have the brown one.
No, not like that one.
The black one, okay. So that's
the black one.
Yeah. So what is the page? We're looking for the page. It's actually after section 1. Okay, that's a mistake of mine, and it's like after the 4 page. So section 1. Section 1. So go like about 3 pages and keep on going, taking a look at the beginning of your paragraphs, and you will find it. Please help us out if you see the other pages. Jaylene, Jimena, help us out, okay? Go to any of these pages that I'm referencing here and give us your page if you're using the black edition, black cover.
I have the brown book, the same one that you have, so I can't really be much of help.
Yes, okay. But if not, please help us out.
I found it for the first one. I have page 90.
Done. 90. But so that everybody can help us, please go to any of the numbers and try to find your page. So we do it together. So we have 1.
The second one is page 94.
There you go, 94. Thanks a lot. Let's see, 87.
Mine for the second one is also 94.
Mm-hmm.
Not only in religion class was memory exercised. is also 94.
Yeah, let's go to the next pages.
For section 2, the sister and brother, I page 103.
103. Done.
Mine is the same as hers, 103. Also.
Page 100 for me is the very last page for the second section. So if you go to the end of the second section, you should be able to find it. To the very end of the second section 2. It's the paragraph previous to the last paragraph. This should be an easy one. Go to the end of section 2, the paragraph previous to the last paragraph.
There are people, 106.
106. Okay, so now it starts the section 3 of the book. And I have page 105. So it's like 4 or 5 more pages.
Throughout college and graduate school is 112.
Okay. Only 2 more to go. So, well, it's, yeah, this is easy because it's not, no, this is the next page, 107.
And then the next one is 114.
114. Okay.
And then the last one is 116.
Thanks a lot, Kelly.
Mhm.
116. Okay, so as in previous sessions, please write down if you have the black cover book edition, please write down the numbers, or make sure that you have the numbers, because I'm going to be referring to my pages. But here you have your numbers. And again, if you are using a device, maybe the best way, well, I think the pages were coinciding when I was talking to Kels in the previous class session. In the end, we had the same numbers, and she was using her iPad. Okay, so I'm going to, is it okay if I move on to my, I'm gonna show you a different thing then to start the session. Okay. So I wanted to briefly go over the assignments and start by taking a look at the raise your hand information that I have posted. I sent you an invitation in case you were interested this week. This is a great opportunity to listen and see Martin Espada reading. So here you have the invitation. This is going to be the poet. We will be reading a book by Martin Espada by the end of the semester. So this is the, Hunger of Memory is the previous to the last book. And then we have Martin Espada's anthology. And it's just poems and poems and poems. And if you're interested, this is a great opportunity to see him in action, okay, Martin Espada himself. Then, if we are, as you know, we're working on Hunger of Memory, I needed to share with you the rubric for your paper, right? And for also give you a more precise information as to how I'm grading the quotations and comments. And here you have them. Now, I would like to highlight something here for you right now. submitted on time, 10 points. So if it is not submitted on time, the person loses 10 points, okay? And I'll give you 1 week to be late. But if it is not submitted on time, you lose, the assignment loses 10 points. And in this case, it is the same, right? I'm giving you a deadline for this. Please go to the syllabus and you'll see the deadline is after the break, actually. So I want to give you plenty of time to write your letter, right? And the same, you have a deadline, please meet it to gain your the 10 points, because if not, the assignment, again, the letter will be losing 10 points. So that's why I also said, I'm going to give you until Thursday, that is to say today, to submit your first set of quotations. Okay, it's not going to be late. It's not going to be late if the set of quotations plus comments, they both are submitted today. Okay, you have until midnight to submit them. No problem, because I did not give you the information. And then let me remind you also about the next set of quotations. It's not due next week, as you know. It's due the week after. So we have time to finish discussing the book. And then I'm going to ask you to submit to the second set of quotations. There are several reasons for me to be asking to do this, but I'll give you perhaps the most important, okay? I want you to start working on your letter. And this is a way for you to be working already on your letter. So each time you select your own quotations and each time you write your own comments, actually you are writing, warming up for the letter. And you can use this. And maybe in the end, some paragraphs, the ideas you're coming up with for your My Education letter, right? That's the title of the letter, My Education. The purpose is to compare your process of education more or less to, what the process of education for Richard Rodriguez was like, but also the idea is to make references to his ideas about education, okay? Any questions about that?
I have a question about the letter. So what exactly are we writing for the letter?
Again, I'm going to repeat myself because I just said it.
Oh,
I want you to think about your own education. What took place? What was your education like? Did you have specific moments throughout high school, middle school, elementary school? There were key moments in your education, would you say? You have guidance that was significant for you to keep you going? Have you thought that your education has been making a difference in your life? Have you seen others, by the way, who have not been succeeding? And if that has been happening, not succeeding, right? Why do you think that has been happening? Notice that Richard Rodriguez has many ideas on education, many. He not only talks about his own process of education, his experiences, he also has these ideas in mind that he would like to share with everybody and also impact through his book, policies on education, right? Policies on education. So again, what I need is for you to be thinking about your own process of education. Why has it been successful and how has it been successful? Have you had any challenges along the way? And this would be important. I don't want to intrude in your privacy, right? But at the same time, it would be great if you could share some of your challenges and also what has made it possible for you to overcome those challenges, okay? But please don't only think about you. Think about your classmates, students you have been, next to, and also incorporate, if you can, and if you want, that into your letter. So the big question here for us is education. What is education all about? Somehow, because notice that the title of the book is Hunger on Memory, right? But the subtitle is The Education of Richard Rodriguez. The Education of Richard Rodriguez. So you have some flexibility, but I'm giving you the basics, right? And since it's going to be a letter, do this, please do this. Talk to him, address him, okay? Mr. Rodriguez, and you throughout the letter, because you're talking to him. Think of this as maybe, if this helps, as a written speech that you will deliver. And maybe you're thinking that Richard Rodriguez is in the audience. So you're talking to him, okay? I know we no longer write letters, or many people are no longer, we just write email messages, okay? So I'm kind of being sort of old-fashioned here, but I hope you allow me to be old-fashioned for the sake of the exercise, which is providing you with an opportunity not to write the typical essay, right? But to write actually something more personal, because letters always are more personal. So that's what I insist in the students, writing a letter, and not necessarily a paper, okay, of sorts for this, in this case. Any more questions? Oh, and I don't want to forget this, the forum, okay? The forum. So if we have had already 5 forums plus this week's. So if you have already been participating in the forums, you are no longer required to participate in them. But if you haven't, and you are missing participation points on any of the forums, submit your comments. So you're gonna gain the points, and also you're gonna provide me with some feedback on your thoughts, right? Submit. So we have this week's forum, and we have one more forum next week. Again, if you have submitted for the 5 previous forums, you're not required to submit. Please do so. Volunteer, write something. Fantastic. And this is good news for you. If you didn't before, at least you have this one this week and next week for me to give you the points you gain by making comments. Okay?
So to catch up on our forums, do we have to go back to previous forums?
No. I'm saying we have this opportunity this week or next week's, and that's it.
So even though if we miss like a lot of forums, we can just do those 2 and it'll be all right.
Well, you'll get points. And if you have questions about how many you are missing, stay at the end of the class and I'll tell you, okay?
Okay.
But you have a good chance here, because instead of saying the forums have stopped, Lindsay, I'm saying you have 2 more opportunities to gain points, right?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, if not, it would be too messy. So I cannot do it at this time. Honestly, I cannot do it. Too many things happening, but at least I saw these 2 forums as opportunities for you to gain some points that you already lost in case you did not participate, okay? And to those of you who have continuously been, participating, great, fantastic, okay? Okay, so let me see if I am missing something here from my beginning. No, I am not. So, the first question you may have about the chapter, and I would like us to discuss the chapter, okay? So I'm gonna create some breakout rooms and give us at least the opportunity to discuss 3 segments. I can create 3 breakout rooms and then include myself in one of them, and to work along with one of you, okay? Given the numbers today. But you may have a question about Credo, okay? And before that, because notice the word he's using. He's not using creed, he's using Credo. And along the way, we get an explanation why he's using Credo instead of creed, belief, right? So that's a question that we need to address. Why is he using this word in particular to title the chapter? A second comment that I would like to make is that I want to be explicit. I'm not intending for the class to become a class on religion, right? On religion. That's not my interest. My interest is to get to know his experience and how his life has been shaped by his contact with this specific religion. You probably could have in your minds that Catholicism is quite important for the Latino population, and you wouldn't be wrong in thinking that. But as I think I said before, maybe I should restate it. We have a plurality of religions in Latin America, and in this case also, we have a person who is Mexican American. So we are talking about one American person living in the States and participating in religion here in the States, right? So my point is that we have complexity in terms of religion and a ascription of a person to a specific set of religious practices. Evangelicals, for example, the Protestant side of religion has gained many followers in Latin America. And so that could be something that maybe in a session one could explore about Latin America. Again, we're not talking here necessarily about Latin America because this is a person who grew up and was, first of all, he was born in the States and he grew up in the United States, as we know. And so I just wanted to say that, okay, to say that, to clarify the situation for this conversation that we're going to have on Catholicism and Richard Rodriguez. If we were to do an overview, let me give you an overview of the chapter. And you tell me, please tell me if I'm missing something after I do my overview, okay? I'm going to be as short as possible. So what is he talking about in this chapter? He's talking about Catholicism in the way his family has been practicing it. And also Catholicism as it's been practiced in a school. And mostly he's talking about elementary and middle school for him, because he attended a Catholic school in which all of them, I think, the teachers were nuns, and they all were Irish. And by the way, I think that this is interesting, I think, for the class. I think most of these nuns were not born in the United States, okay? So they came to the United States and as part of their religious mission, they were teaching in this school he attended, okay? So Catholicism in a school, Catholicism at home. Are they the same? Are they similar? Are they different? He's talking about that. Along the way, he starts comparing Catholicism to Protestantism in the United States. Because as we know, in the States, Protestantism has been shaping the culture of the country. And Catholicism, it's been, according to many, according to what we call a majority, less prevalent. That could be a question, okay? That could be a question to be explored. But so what is happening here, he asked himself up to extent, with Catholicism being so much in contact with a culture that is essentially Protestant. And what does it mean to be part of that kind of religious spectrum, Protestantism as opposed to Catholicism? So what are the differences between Catholicism and Protestantism in the United States? In addition to that, I think it's important to say that in this chapter, he talks about the Catholic Church changing in the 20th century in particular, because that's his experience, right? So he goes from describing more traditional practices within Catholicism to practices that are more modern or modernized, okay? And he's got his own position about what he values about the traditional Catholic Church and about the modern, more modern, contemporary Catholic Church, changing the previous one. And then he, in the end, asks himself who he is in terms of his religious practice. Who is he like? What kind of Catholic person he actually is, given everything that took place. He talks or writes about high school and how his approach to religion in high school changed his self-perception and the perception of Catholicism or Catholics in the United States. And so in the end, he shows himself to be an adult, having gone through I think a serious involvement with the Catholic Church and these religious practices, and saying basically, I am this kind of Catholic person. Okay, and that remains as a question for us. What kind of Catholic person Richard Rodriguez would be like? Okay, but that's the ending in my view. Did I miss something that I think any of you think that we should add?
I think you covered most of it.
Okay, and I was trying to, thank you. I was trying not to be too explicit at times, right? To be kind of general, because the meat of the conversation should be our segments or quotations in more detail, okay? Okay, so let's work on some of the pages that I gave you. I'll create the 3 breakout rooms. Again, I'll be working with one of you, and I'll just go, I guess, what I can. No. I'll go room by room saying what page I am assigning to you, okay? And then we'll meet back here and we'll go over. Again, what I'm asking you to do is this: concentrate on your page or a couple of pages, right? And find at least one segment or 2 segments that you think are important to discuss today, and give us your comments on that segment. So when we come back again, read the segment, first of all, right, to us, and then make comments on that segment. And we'll help out by adding our own comments to your comments. That's what we are doing. Okay.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
The last page numbers you gave us, do we write those in our quotations that are due today?
I'm confused. I think, let me show you. Oh, where is
You
it?
gave us a page number that started.
No, use your, if you're referring to the quotations, thank you for asking the question, Lindsay. You can use your own page numbers. This is only for our class sessions, for us to have the conversations. I
Oh,
know what
okay.
you're intending to do. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Because I've been
yeah,
reading the chapters. I'm trying to catch up. I'm a little behind, I'll admit.
I think I answered your question, right?
Yes, it's just
Okay.
I've been reading, and I added my own quotes that I thought sounded important.
Yeah, I
Was-
did not determine which quotations you were going to use.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
I'm
you.
not mandating that. Okay, so let me create the breakout rooms.
I understand that.
Okay, so let me give you page 80, 88, 90. That's my book. Or page 94 in the black cover book.
Can
that
you
okay?
repeat the pages again?
88, 90 in my book, or 94 in the black book.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, let me assign you the pages then. I'll give you page 100 in my book, or page 106 in your book. 100 in my book or 106 in your book. Is that okay?
What does the quote sound like?
Yeah, the beginning is, there are people who tell me today.
Okay, I found it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Kaylee. So why don't we do page, let me see, 105, 106 in my book, and it's 112 in yours.
Okay. 112.
Yeah, and yours is 112, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was reading the segment, throughout college and graduate school, I thought of myself as an Orthodox Catholic. Do you know what that adjective would mean, Orthodox?
Isn't that a sort of religion, right?
Well, I've heard it for a Jewish, what is it, segment of the religious Jewish people, the Orthodox Church. But, and also in Russia, there is an Orthodox, I think, a church. But in here, it's an adjective and it means traditional, basically, you know, very like to the letter of the law. A person who follows the law to the letter, very stickler for prescriptions, traditional prescriptions, religious prescriptions, okay? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought of myself as a very traditional to the letter Catholic. That's what he's saying. I was a liberal, but notice what he says later. He says, I was a liberal Catholic. So he's finding himself, you know, to be a different person because of his own experiences, and because he's becoming more of an adult, and also because he lives, you know, he lives in 20th century America. So this notion of liberalism is quite important here, as well as orthodox, in my view. Now, can you explain the next sentence? Could you read it and explain it?
In all things.
Mm-hmm.
And all things say how do you say it?
Liturgy.
Liturgy? Liturgy?
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
I was liberal from the start.
That's the sentence. It's just one sentence.
Oh, okay.
Remember, we are very slow readers, slow motion readers. That's what we are. That's what we are trying to become. Okay, I think you were not acquainted with the word liturgy.
Yeah, I don't know that word.
Yeah, that caught you. It's it's the rituals that the church follows, any church, okay? But it's also, so like when you attend a mass in the Catholic Church, right? The priest will be on the altar and he'll go through a number of steps along with the people in the church, right? And so it's not only the whole ritual, but also the steps, and it includes even what he's using, any material that he's using for the ritual. So it could be, say, candles, right? It could be oil. It could be, in this case, it could be wine. All of those elements are very important key parts of the ritual because they are symbolic. And I think also Richard Rodriguez, writes about the importance of liturgy for the whole year of the practice, of the religious practice. Because we need to remember that, in this case, the church trusts in the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and therefore the year is organized according, right, through the steps of that narrative. That's very important because it anchors people in the practice, in the religious practice. And I don't think this is unique to Catholicism, by the way, I think that all religions see the year according to a specific shape, just in case. So liturgy is a very important word right here for him. But notice the sentence. Then what does the sentence mean to you now?
It means that like he's following this practice and it's like part of his life, I would say.
Yeah, but if we read the sentence, in all things, notice how the sentence begins. In all things, right? And then save, except the liturgy, I was a liberal.
So it's part of his life, and he's saying that he is a liberal. Like he's one of them, like he's a Catholic.
And at the same time, he's liberal about many practices, but not about this one. So he's saying, yes, modernize, but please do not touch my liturgy. Do not even, dare to touch it. Because if you do, so there is no longer religion for me. Something like that. So it's a mix. It's a mix, right? Of what is it? It's a mixing of cultures, if you will. It's a mixing of cultures because the Catholic Church needs to be the culture surrounding Catholicism, right, imposes new practices. The church cannot be behind the times. Is there a reason for that? Do you think?
I mean, like be behind the times. I mean, like they had to stay like relevant almost.
Yes, exactly. And the basic reason for me is that if not, who is going to be attending the church?
Yeah, like who's gonna follow if it's not relevant?
So maybe what he's saying, yeah, exactly. Maybe what he's saying is that the church needs to stay relevant for people because people are changing, times are changing, and so the church itself has to become liberal
Yeah.
and less conservative. But the thing is, notice what he's saying later in the same paragraph. He says, and this is a very important statement for him, for Rodriguez. At the very end of the paragraph, he says, "I longed for the Latin Mass. I longed for the Latin Mass." Music of Bach, ceremonies of candles and acolytes. I long for the Latin Mass. Do you know what he's talking about?
He's like, I'm trying to find the word. Oh, like he waits for that mass, like he likes to go to that mass. When I think of like lawns, like he's wants to go there, that mass.
Yeah, but if he's longing for that kind of mass, then what do we have? Do we have a liberal person or do we have a conservative person regarding religious practices? You see the contradiction.
I feel like that would be conservative, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, deeply conservative because
Yeah.
Because we need to talk about why Latin was used in the church, and also why, and then what if you didn't know Latin?
Yeah.
And so, but then one interesting historical question would be, when did the church start no longer using Latin as the language of the mass? When did that finish? I don't know exactly, okay?
Yeah.
But we can have more or less an idea as to when did this finish. But notice that for him, as he was growing up in Sacramento, he was able to attend Latin Mass. So at the time, the practice, using this language was still prevalent, maybe, or used. Maybe I don't know how prevalent it was, but he as a child experienced Latin Mass. So again, the idea of staying relevant or losing many people because you are no longer, as an institution, the institution is no longer part of the times. But what is interesting to me is to ask ourselves questions about Richard Rodriguez. How is the church impacting his life, and what kind of person is this Mexican American writer in the end? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to add something that makes it more complicated once we meet all together in
Okay.
the classroom, okay? So I'll see you in a second. I'm going to finish. Thanks for engaging in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
When you're talking to me about how like religion impacted his life, like when I was reading it, he talked about like the calendars and how like he follows by like the religious calendar. I thought was interesting.
Yes, and if one were to be in Spain or Latin America, that would be much more relevant, I would say, or kind of obvious, because the calendar in Spain or Latin America goes along with the celebration of so many holidays, religious holidays, and then saints also. And it follows the calendar of the resurrection as well. So there are important ceremonies that people participate in. And so it would be more obvious that, many people, not necessarily everybody, but and a number of people are following the calendar in this way, and also they are expecting, for some of the celebrations and holidays to take place. It's like well, Thanksgiving here in the States, which is so important, right? um, because we associated with the coming together of the families, and the fact that we can rejoice in this sense of what is it, um, warmth coming out of the affections that we have for our people, right? And all this crazy traveling that happens, but that also means I miss you. I need to see you. I will get there. I'll be with the family, and so on and so forth. So that's also part of the Latin American tradition, as well as the Spanish tradition from Spain, because of what I'm saying, right? That there's a lot of emotionality involved in these moments, in these celebrations. Okay, so could we start with? I think I gave you. Did I give somebody page 88 in my book, 94 in yours?
Yes, that was myself and Jaylene.
Okay, can one of you please read the segment and then comment on your segment? So it's page 88 in my book, 94
Yes.
in your book.
Yes. So we chose the entire first paragraph. I don't know if you wanted me to actually read it all, but I'll begin, and if you want us to stop, we can just, stop. So what we chose was, not only in religion class was memorized exercised. Not only in religion class was memory exercised. During those years when I was memorizing the questions and answers of Baltimore Catechism, I was also impressing on my memory the spelling of hundreds of words, grammar, rules, divisions, and multiplication tables. The nuns deeply trusted the role of memorization in learning. Not coincidentally, they were excellent readers of basics, teachers of basics. They would stand in front of the room for hours, drilling us over and over again. 5 times 5, 5 times 9, 9 I before E except after C. God made us to know, love, and serve him in this world. Stressing memorization, my teachers implied that education is largely a matter of acquiring knowledge already discovered, and they were right. For contrary to more progressive notions of learning, much that is learned in a classroom must already be known, and much that is already known must be learned before a student can achieve truly independent thought.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of the segment that we chose. I don't know if Jaylene wanted to go ahead and jump in and say something, or if she just wanted me to continue.
Please, Jaylene, do so.
So this segment basically described like how not how important, but like the impact that the nuns had on the children in the school. So one of the sentences, it says the nuns deeply trusted the role of memorization and learning. So they, like he mentioned here, they drilled them to get to know the learnings. So not only math and English, but also Catholicism and their religion. So they want them to know that, God is almighty, and, God is essentially the center, but it really did kind of influence him and his beliefs in the religion.
He also continued He also continues to stress memorization and how sometimes not a lot of children or kids, the way they learn is not through memorization. Sometimes they required other techniques or other methods of learning. I think that's what he's getting at here, is how even later in the story, in the chapter, he continues with, you know, how religion is especially, you know, growing impatient and relentlessly questioning students and things like that, as well as how he learned with memorization and, you know, stressing the repetitive ways of how he learned through this way of memorization.
Yeah, my comment has to do with the last segment of your of that paragraph. When
Okay.
he says, for me, for contrary to more progressive notions of learning, much that is learned in a classroom must be the already known. What I think is that he's attacking the notion that um, children or students from early on can be creative, because for him, that's a different approach, and that's approach that other educators have regarding the way learning happens or teaching should happen. So for him, he said, in my case, notice, I am an excellent writer, I'm an excellent reader, and I'm also have my public persona, uh, speaking fluently English, but more than that, right? He's saying somehow to me, I am a sophisticated user of the English language. Um, how did I get here? Well, not by using the practices that some progressive, and I would put a quotation mark here, according to him, progressive educators have. It was these nuns that have an approach to teaching despised by progressive educators that truly worked. And please remember this again. He's saying to me and to us, if you are a Mexican American kid who comes from my background, working class background, how are you going to educate me, right? What is the training that I need, not only to survive, but to make progress? He's trusting in this way of approaching education, basically at the elementary school, right? A schooling moment for kids. This is what our kids like me need, okay? He doesn't say it like that, but we need to kind of read between the lines. Do we agree with him? Up to what extent do we? Okay, because he's saying before, right? What does it say? Before a student can achieve truly independent thought, the child needs to repeat, 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 memorize, 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 memorize. Okay. Now, in his remember the video also about Chicanos and what they were experiencing in high schools and maybe middle school, and how they were basically at the end of the 50s and 60s, the beginning of the 60s, just dropping or not being not being paid attention to as students. So they will let them be in the classroom, and that was the complaint they were making about the quote unquote so-called education for them, right? So the question is, what is the education that a kid similar to Richard Rodriguez will need? And I left you with a comment about the ending of the chapter, or about a paragraph that we're making comments on, right, in the previous chapter. If was he or is he trying to present an exceptional case that will not be able, that we will not be able to use for most kids in schools? He went to a private school. Nuns were dedicating hours and hours to his own education. He did not, he wasn't surrounded by kids that were Mexican Americans or African Americans. It was mostly, notice, he says, middle class kids. And I assume most of them, if not all of them, were white. but middle class kids, not from his own social background, right? And coming from the experience of going back home, speaking Spanish. That was not the case of the majority of the Chicano population because they were in public schools, right? Where they were the majority of the students attending the classes. Was the system providing something for them that was of value according to Chicanos? No, they were being dismissed. They were not being taken care of. Therefore, the American dream was not happening. The American dream was not happening. But according to Richard Rodriguez, in his case, in his specific case, right, this was working out. This was working out. And the what is it? The proof is his book, his talent, his sophistication, his education, getting to Stanford, right? Getting to London to be writing a thesis or dissertation. So that's the question for America, right? How do we provide? We were talking about social mobility. Remember, social mobility. How do we actually provide social mobility for people? Not, I would argue, not for this tiny minority, right? But for a significant number of people through the educational system. That's the key of the American dream for all of us. I think we understand it that way. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to make connections so that you see how I approach the lines and his thinking about education. Okay. If we don't look at this according to the context, we will miss a lot of meaning. He's devilish. Okay. He really he's not explicit, but he loads his sentences, in my view, with subtle meaning, okay? Subtle meaning. So we have to catch it as he writes. Please go to the next, let's go to the next page, next that I gave you. I think it was page, the next group, page 103, was it, or 10? Sister and brother, or there are people who tell me today, I don't remember. Next group.
So page, so what we discussed is that basically he was saying that some people told him that he was that.
What is the page?
With page 100, there are people who tell me today.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in my book is 100. In the black cover book is 106.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 100 or 106. Okay, please let's go to that page. Okay, could you please read the quotation, the segment?
There are people who tell me today that they are not religious because they consider religion to be an invasion of life. I hear them their assurance and do not bother to challenge the arrogance of a secular world which hasn't courage enough to accept the fact of old age and death. I know people who speak of death with timorous euphemisms of passing away. I have friends who wouldn't think of allowing their children to attend a funeral for fear of inflicting traumatic scars. For my part, I will always be grateful to the church that took me so seriously and exposed me so early. Through liturgy to
Yes.
the experience of life. I will always be grateful to the parish priest who forced a mortician to remove an elaborate arrangement of flowers from a coffin. Don't hide it.
Okay, so what was more relevant? It's a long paragraph. So what ideas would you like to comment on?
That basically religion is used for like comfort. Like if someone died, instead of saying that they're dead, they don't exist, that some religions believe that the soul goes into heaven and watches over you. So bring some kind of comfort to someone who has died. Or if you've done something bad and you ask God for forgiveness, that you will be forgiven, and that heaven is like a paradise. These beliefs help comfort people in the real life.
Okay, so the word comfort here is key to understand what he's saying, providing comfort to people because, say, existence is short, death happens. Sky, do you have any other comment?
So what he was saying is that people tell him that religion is a reason for him to escape life. But his counter argument is, well, I at least have the courage to accept the fact of old age and even death. And I was able to confront it at a young age. And unlike most people who didn't have religion. So I thought that was an interesting way of putting it, you know.
Yes, that's his point. That's his point. And so the word secular here for me becomes quite important, because secular is the word he's surrounded by. Not only surrounded, he's also secular. We are all secular. Jaylene, could you explain that word? What does secular mean?
So secular means, isn't it like an organization or like part of an organization or something?
No.
No.
Now if you're thinking of a different word, maybe.
Or
No.
is it like to like separate?
In some sense, it does mean
Okay.
to separate. Yes, in some sense it does. Anybody else? Secular? Well, secular basically means this is, in a nutshell, okay? In a nutshell, medieval times, like from the 5th century till the 15th century, it's not secular because everything revolves around the power of church and kings, right? But the Renaissance, 16th century forward, starts being more secular and secular, meaning by that there is separation between the state and church. No longer the church will have such, strong power over society. It will no longer determine success of people or where, right, success of people, say, in societies. No, the state, it's an entity by itself, governments, right? And governments will dissociate themselves from specific church, I guess, entities. So what do we end up having? Education that is not, that is dissociated, separated, as Jaylene was suggesting, separated from religious practices or religions. So when you attend public school nowadays, that's a secular education, because according to the Constitution, so on and so forth, according to a secular democracy that we have, right? It's nobody's mandating us, nobody's imposing on us education. I'm sorry, religion, right? We have a number of options, but that's not part of what public education will do. Of course, within American society, some people disagree, okay? Because that's a democracy again. But notice, most people, right, because they attend public schools, receive a secular education. So a religious education in that regard seems to be a thing of the past. But also the importance of significance of the church as an institution. I'm not talking about only about religious practices here, but I'm talking about the politics and the social politics of the situation, power concentrated in an institution, right? Medieval times, the church, the Pope, okay, in Catholicism, as the King of Kings somehow, okay? And so it was very political, okay? And meaning by that, having power and exercising power and determining who's got this position, who's got that position that is relevant to uh, lead society in a specific way. So no, we are all in that regard, secular people. We are all secular people, and then why is he using the word? I think it's precisely that he's trying to say, well, you know what? Um, and Sky was referring to that. So I'm kind of paraphrasing what you said. Um, those people who see themselves to be so secular do not understand why people practice religion, because in fact, and as Lindsay was saying, people need some comfort because existential situations happen, meaning by that, illnesses, right? Or let's say death. And there is an important connection to our pain, suffering, and also the reward of comfort, and maybe a deep understanding of our existential situation here in life. Depending on the religion, right? We'll have an afterlife or we will not have it, and so on and so on and so forth. So it's very complex. But basically saying secular people do not understand what is going on actually. And then they have a superficial approach to what takes place. Question: what did he say in this chapter about his parents? Do you remember? And the church. What was the church able to provide to his parents that other institutions could not provide to his dad and his mom? Please remember, both were immigrants from Mexico, right? Both were immigrants from Mexico. Do you remember what does he say about that? That was a very moving moment for me when I read it. Let me see if I can find the quotation. I think it's in my book, it's page 90. And let me see if I can find for your book, if you have the page 90. No, I didn't give you that page, but I'll read the quotation. This is actually, it's easy. If you go to section 2, the beginning of section 2, you find the moment, okay? Are you there, by the way? The beginning of section 2. It says, of all the institutions in their lives, only the Catholic Church has seemed aware of the fact that my mother and father are thinkers, and I highlighted this, are thinkers, persons aware of the experience of their lives. Other institutions, the nation's political parties, 1, the industries of mass entertainment and communications, 2, the companies that employ them, 3, have all treated my parents with condescension. Condescension. What does condescension mean, Jimena?
It means not mistrust. It's like looking down upon somebody, thinking lesser of them.
Yes, so that's what he's saying. Only the church thought that they were talented people, thinkers, not only talented, but he says, thinkers. All of the institutions thought of my parents, as less valuable, less of self-critical, if you will, of self-aware, he would say, okay? And sometimes he gets more critical. I mean, after that, he gets a bit more critical of the church because he says the homily at Sunday Mass, intended to give parishioners basic religious instruction, has often been poorly prepared and aimed at a childish listener, the speech homily at Mass was talking down to them, putting them down, according to Rodriguez. It's been the liturgical church that has excited my parents. In ceremonies, and this is liturgy, right? In ceremonies of public worship, they have been moved, assured that their lives, all aspects of their lives, from waking to eating, from birth until death, all moments possess great significance. And this is the way he ends. Only the liturgy has encouraged them to dwell on the meaning of their lives. That is to say, to think. So this is what maybe a philosopher would say, that philosophy will provide a person who thinks with self-awareness. This is what, and also the recognition of self-awareness. We are thinkers because we think about our lives. Um, we have doubts and hesitations because we're thinking about our existence. And also, we give purpose or meaning to our lives because, again, we are thinking. According to Rodriguez, nobody did this for their parents, for his parents. Only the liturgy of the Catholic Church they were attending. So um, that's why also I think Catholicism is for him important, because it impacted not only him. He says, remember this, he said that he attended like 200 masses as an altar boy, and that he could understand many Latin expressions in the Latin language, Latin, not Spanish, right? Latin language. 200 masses. Wow, as an altar boy, that's a lot of masses as a boy. So how was he not going to be impacted by this, part of his life? Also, for his education and for his person, right, growing up in this kind of environment, notice as an altar boy, this was an education in itself. They gave him a prominent role, and not many kids have these opportunities. I always think that, if kids participate in institutions like this and they are giving roles, right, in front of a large audience, like it happens in churches, well, they are training them constantly, and they are empowering them. Okay, they are giving them a voice, recognition all the time. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you will do it. Yes, you will be successful. Yes, you have a community supporting you, and so on and so forth. But what it was most moving to me was to see that his religion, right, and what he treasures is important to him because he loved his parents. And, he cannot forget that this was the only institution, according to him, that he treated his parents well. So his parents being, remember, immigrants, working class people here in the States attending Catholic Church in Sacramento, California, right? And even going from time to time to what he describes as the Catholic Church of white folks, which did not resemble the Mexican church his parents were attending, or the more humble, or where some of the Mexican religious practices from the old country Mexico were still in place, because it makes a comparison between the two. But I have a challenge here, okay, a challenging thought. I cannot forget, and I need your feedback on this. I cannot forget that, and he doesn't forget it, that he's gay. So how is this compatible? And he knew he was gay, okay, when he was a child. But notice throughout the chapter, there is no reference whatsoever to that, to his self-perception, his self-awareness of being in that regard different, okay? So one of the questions I have is, so he's in the closet in the book. What are the reasons for being in the closet? Also, if this is an important component of his life, and truly it is, then what are we missing here? And what is missing from this, involvement with the church? Or is there something he's telling us that if we don't pay enough attention, we miss? Because as a gay person, he's belonging in the church, right? And also, he's so aware that the church may not accept him. But given the description we have in the chapter, right? He's fully accepted. But when you later read a book like this one, Darling, that he wrote, it's one of his books, you find a quotation like this one that I'm going to share with you. A gay man easily sees himself as expendable in the eyes of the church hierarchy, because that is how he imagines the church hierarchy sees him. Gay man, Richard Rodriguez, expendable, dismissible. The church cannot afford to expel women, on the other hand, right? Women are obviously central to the large procreative scheme of the church. Women have sustained the church for centuries by their faith and their birth rates. Following the sexual scandals involving priests and children, we are all acquainted with that, women may or may not consent to present a new generation of babies for baptism. Somewhere in its canny old mind, the church knows this. Every bishop has a mother. And then he finishes this segment. It is because the church needs women that I depend upon women to protect the church from its impulse to cleanse itself of me as a gay man. So was he not aware of this as he was growing up? Let's say when he was in middle school or when he was in high school, but there is no explicit reference to this, self-perception, and he's highly intelligent. So he knows what goes on inside the church. And as an adult, he says, the church has the temptation to cleanse itself of me, gay person. But still, he says, as an adult, I love my Latin Mass, my Mass in the Latin language. I love the liturgy. I am a Catholic person. And I revere women. For example, Virgin of Guadalupe. It's quite important. And the church is female, okay? The church is female, not necessarily male, okay? But I hope you see the complexity of the situation. And I hope what I'm saying makes sense, that this is a complicated situation and there's a lot missing. But also, and to finish, do I, reading this, do I have the right to impose this reading, knowing that Richard Rodriguez is gay? And do I have the right to ask, why is he not saying something about that and addressing the situation at the time? Why didn't he do it? Why didn't he do it at the time? So there are lots of questions and there may be many answers. I'll see you then next week, Tuesday, and we'll continue with the next chapter of this book, okay? If you have a question, please stay. Have a nice weekend. Stay strong, stay safe.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good night or evening. Ugh.
Thank you. Thank you.